The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, jolting me from the spreadsheet I'd been staring at for the past hour. Wedding budgets don't balance themselves, and with 3 months until Olivia and I say I do, every dollar mattered. The caller ID showed Mom in that familiar blue glow. "Ethan, thank God you answered." Her voice cracked with panic, words tumbling over each other. "Your father collapsed at dinner. We're at St. Mary's Hospital. The doctors say he needs emergency surgery immediately." My stomach dropped. Dad had always been invincible in my mind, the steady bank manager who never missed a day of work. "What happened? Is he okay?" "Heart attack, a massive one." She was crying now, that particular sob that made my chest tighten. "The surgeon says they need to operate tonight, but our insurance won't cover the full amount. We need $15,000 right now or they won't proceed." 15,000, the exact amount sitting in our wedding savings account. The money Olivia and I had scraped together over 2 years, skipping vacations and eating ramen more nights than I cared to count. The foundation of our dream wedding at the Botanical Gardens. "Mom, that's everything we have saved for the wedding." "I know, sweetheart, I know. But your father could die. The doctors are waiting for payment authorization before they can start. Please, Ethan, we'll pay you back as soon as the insurance processes, I swear on my life." The beeping of hospital machines echoed through the phone. Dad's life hanging in the balance while I hesitated over money. What kind of son was I? "Send me the hospital's payment information," I said, already opening my laptop. "I'll transfer it now." "Bless you, Ethan. You're saving your father's life." The wire transfer took 12 minutes to process. 12 minutes of watching our wedding dreams evaporate into medical necessity. Olivia found me still staring at the empty savings account when she came home from her late shift at the law firm. "The surgery went perfectly," Mom called the next morning, her voice bright with relief. "He's stable, but the doctors want to keep visitors limited for the first few days. Just immediate family recovery protocols, you understand." I understood. I also understood that Lance, my golden child brother, had posted Instagram stories from a Bali resort that same morning. Infinity pool shots with his girlfriend, champagne breakfast spreads, and a caption that read, "Spontaneous honeymoon vibes, sometimes the best trips are unplanned." The math was simple, the timing was perfect, the amount was exact. I called the hospital directly. "I'd like to check on Gerald Matthews, admitted yesterday for emergency heart surgery." "I'm sorry, sir, but we have no record of any patient by that name being admitted in the past week." My hands started shaking. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I called Mom back. "Oh, they transferred him to a different facility for specialized care," she said quickly. "Very exclusive. No outside calls permitted during recovery." That afternoon, I drove past Dad's usual golf course. There he was on the 7th tee, mid-swing, looking healthier than he had in years. No hospital gown, no surgical scars, no signs of a man who'd nearly died 36 hours earlier. I sat in my car for 20 minutes watching him laugh with his golf buddies, watching him celebrate a perfect drive. The same man whose life I'd supposedly saved with our wedding money. The same man who'd raised me to believe family came first, no matter the cost. The betrayal felt like drowning in reverse. Instead of water filling my lungs, it was the absence of everything I'd believed about my family. They hadn't just stolen our money. They'd weaponized my love, turned my devotion into their ATM card, and done it with the precision of a bank heist. Olivia found me still sitting there when she tracked my location through my phone. She didn't say anything, just got in the passenger seat and held my hand while I finally understood the truth about my place in the Matthews family hierarchy. The golf course revelation shattered something fundamental inside me, but it also illuminated patterns I'd been too loyal to see. Driving home with Olivia's hand in mine, memories cascaded through my mind like evidence files being opened for the first time. Christmas morning, 1995. I was 7, Lance was 5. I'd asked Santa for the same remote control car I'd seen in the Toys R Us catalog, circling it in red crayon and leaving the page on Mom's nightstand for weeks. Christmas morning arrived with Lance tearing into a perfectly wrapped box containing that exact car, while I unwrapped a pack of generic art supplies from the dollar store. "Santa thought you'd prefer something creative," Mom had said, ruffling my hair while Lance vroomed his new car around the living room. College tuition discussions at 17. Dad spreading financial documents across the kitchen table, his banker's precision evident in every calculation. "Lance will need the full ride to state," he'd announced. "His football scholarship covers most of it, but will handle the rest. You're more academically inclined, Ethan. You'll figure out the financial aid maze." I'd figured it out all right. 4 years of student loans that I was still paying off at 30, while Lance graduated debt-free and immediately moved back home to find himself. The pattern was surgical in its consistency. Every family crisis, every financial emergency, every moment requiring sacrifice. I was the solution, Lance was the beneficiary. When Lance totaled his car junior year, I'd cautioned the loan for his replacement. When he needed bail money after a DUI, I'd emptied my emergency fund. When he wanted to start his photography business, I'd provided the seed money that he'd never mentioned repaying. "They've been running a con on you for decades," Olivia said quietly as we sat in our kitchen, my laptop open to Lance's Instagram feed. His Bali posts continued in real time. Couples massage at a luxury spa, private beach dinners, helicopter tour over volcanic landscapes. Each image was a $15,000 slap in the face. I started documenting everything. Bank statements going back 5 years revealed a pattern of emergency transfers to my parents, always followed by mysterious windfalls that coincided with Lance's major purchases. The roof repair fund that preceded his motorcycle. The medical bills that aligned with his European backpacking trip. The property tax crisis that somehow resolved itself the same week he bought his expensive camera equipment. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Dad's recovery is going wonderfully. The doctors are amazed by his progress. We're so grateful for your help, sweetheart." I screenshot the message and added it to my growing evidence folder, right next to Lance's Instagram story of him parasailing over crystal-clear Indonesian waters. The confrontation came 3 days later when I couldn't contain the rage anymore. I drove to my parents' house, evidence printed and organized in a manila folder like the business presentations I gave at work. Dad was in the garage, polishing his golf clubs with the focused attention of a man who'd definitely not been recovering from major surgery. "Ethan." His voice carried that familiar, jovial tone, the one that had always made me feel like his favorite son during the rare moments when Lance wasn't around. "How's the wedding planning going? Your mother mentioned you two had to make some adjustments to the budget." Adjustments. I placed the folder on his workbench, photos of Lance's Bali vacation spread across the top. "Is that what we're calling theft now?" His face didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. The banker's mask slipped into place, professional and calculating. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You and Mom fabricated a medical emergency to steal our wedding fund. Lance is in Bali spending our money while you're here polishing golf clubs 3 days after supposedly having emergency heart surgery." Mom appeared in the garage doorway, her elementary teacher instinct sensing conflict. "Ethan, honey, you sound upset. Maybe we should discuss this inside." "I'm not upset, Mom. I'm done. Done being the family ATM. Done being the responsible one while Lance gets rewarded for being irresponsible. Done pretending this family operates on anything resembling fairness or love." "That's not fair," she said, her voice taking on that wounded tone that had always made me backtrack and apologize. "We love you both equally. Lance just needs more support right now." "Lance is 28 years old. When exactly does right now end?" Dad cleared his throat, his banker's authority reasserting itself. "Son, family means making sacrifices for each other. You've always been the capable one, the one we can count on. Lance is more. Creative, he needs different kinds of support." "Creative," I laughed, but it came out bitter and sharp. "Is that what we're calling freeloading now? Because I've been keeping track, Dad. $43,000 in loans and emergencies over the past 5 years. Not 1 cent repaid. Not one thank you that wasn't immediately followed by the next crisis." The silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of finally speaking truths that had been festering for decades. Mom's face had gone pale, her teacher's composure cracking. Dad's jaw worked silently, his golf club forgotten in his hands. "We'll pay you back," Mom finally whispered. "The wedding money, all of it, we just need time." "With what money?" "Lance's photography career, your elementary school salary, Dad's golf tournament winnings." The questions hung in the air like smoke, and I realized I'd finally stopped being the good son, the reliable one, the family problem solver. I'd become something they'd never had to deal with before, the son who kept receipts. I walked out of that garage with something I'd never possessed before, clarity. The drive home felt different, like I was seeing the world through new eyes instead of the fog of family obligation that had clouded my vision for 30 years. Olivia was waiting with takeout Chinese food and a bottle of wine, her lawyer's instincts having prepared for exactly this kind of evening. "How do you feel?" she asked, settling beside me on the couch. "Free," I said, and meant it. Angry but free. Over the next 2 weeks, that freedom crystallized into something more powerful, strategy. I'd spent my entire career in marketing, understanding consumer psychology, identifying pain points, and creating solutions. My family had pain points. They were about to discover I could create solutions, too. The wedding planning took on a different energy. Instead of the botanical gardens with 200 guests, Olivia and I chose an intimate ceremony at her family's lake house. 30 people who actually loved us, not the extended Matthews family circus that would have cost a fortune and felt like performing for an audience that had never truly seen me. "It's perfect," Olivia said, reviewing the scaled-down plans. "This is what we actually wanted anyway." She was right. The lake house wedding would cost $8,000 instead of $25,000. It would be meaningful instead of obligatory. And it would be completely secret from my parents, who still believed they'd successfully hijacked our original plans. While Olivia handled the intimate wedding logistics, I focused on my other project. The Matthews Family Investment Recovery LLC took shape over late nights and weekends, a legitimate business entity formed through proper legal channels. I consulted with a securities attorney to ensure every detail was technically compliant, every disclosure properly worded, every risk clearly stated. "This is either brilliant or completely insane," the lawyer said, reviewing my prospectus. "Probably both. Is it legal?" "Technically, yes. You're offering a legitimate investment opportunity with proper risk disclosures. The fact that you're specifically targeting your parents' greed and financial desperation is ethically questionable but not legally problematic." The investment opportunity was beautiful in its simplicity. A tech startup specializing in AI-driven financial recovery services for families dealing with elder fraud. The irony wasn't lost on me. The prospectus was professionally designed, complete with market analysis, projected returns, and testimonials from satisfied early investors. Everything looked legitimate because it was legitimate, right up until the point where it wasn't designed to succeed. My parents' financial situation was more precarious than I'd realized. A little digging revealed they'd been living beyond their means for years, using credit cards to fund Lance's lifestyle while maintaining their own middle-class facade. Dad's bank manager salary was solid but not spectacular, and Mom's teacher's pension was still years away. They were house-rich and cash-poor, exactly the demographic most susceptible to get rich-quick investment schemes. The approach had to be perfect. I couldn't offer them the investment directly. That would trigger their suspicions. Instead, I planted seeds during casual conversations, mentioning my new business venture to Lance first. "It's this incredible opportunity," I told him over coffee, showing him the professionally bound prospectus. "Early investors are seeing 30% returns in the first quarter, but it's invitation-only minimum investment of $10,000. Lance's eyes lit up with the same greed I'd seen when he'd unwrapped my Christmas presents as a child. "That sounds amazing. I wish I had that kind of money to invest." "Well, if you know anyone who might be interested, I could probably arrange an introduction. Family friends, people with some capital looking for better returns than traditional savings accounts." The hook was set. Lance mentioned it to our parents that same evening, describing the opportunity in terms that made it sound even more exclusive and lucrative than my original presentation. Within a week, Dad called me directly. "Lance mentioned you're involved in some kind of investment opportunity. As a banker, I'm always interested in hearing about legitimate financial vehicles." "It's really more for people with significant capital," I said, playing hard to get. "The minimum buy-in is substantial and we're being very selective about investors." "What kind of numbers are we talking about?" "15,000 minimum, but Dad, I'm not sure it's right for you and Mom. It's higher risk than what you're probably comfortable with." The psychology was perfect. Tell someone they can't have something and they'll want it more. Tell someone they're not qualified for an opportunity and they'll work twice as hard to prove they are. Dad had spent decades positioning himself as the family's financial expert, the banker who understood money better than anyone else. "Send me the information," he said. "I'd like to take a look." 2 days later, both parents were sitting in my living room, checkbook ready, eager to become founding investors in Matthews Family Investment Recovery LLC. The $15,000 investment would give them preferred shares and guaranteed returns within 6 months. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, giving them one final chance to back out. "The risk disclosures are very clear about the potential for total loss." "Son," Dad said, his banker's confidence radiating authority, "I've been evaluating investments for 20 years. This is exactly the kind of opportunity that builds generational wealth." They signed the papers with the same enthusiasm they'd shown when spending our wedding money on Lance's vacation. The check was made out for exactly $15,000, the precise amount they'd stolen from us 3 months earlier. As I deposited their investment into the LLC's business account, I felt something I hadn't experienced since childhood, the satisfaction of perfect justice. They'd used my love against me, weaponized my loyalty, and exploited my sense of family obligation. Now their own greed would be their downfall. The wedding was 3 weeks away, and they still had no idea it was happening. The first 6 months of their investment went exactly as planned. Monthly statements showed steady growth, impressive returns, and the kind of performance that validated Dad's banker instincts. I sent professional reports detailing market conditions, portfolio adjustments, and projected earnings. They were making money on paper. "This is incredible, Ethan," Dad said during one of our monthly family dinners, the first I'd attended since the garage confrontation. "Your investment is outperforming everything in my personal portfolio. I'm thinking about increasing our position." "The returns speak for themselves," I agreed, watching Mom beam with pride at her financially savvy son. Lance sat across from us, still unemployed but now talking about his own investment plans once his photography career took off. The wedding happened on a perfect October morning. Olivia walked down the aisle between towering oak trees, their leaves a canopy of gold and crimson above 30 people who genuinely loved us. Her father officiated, his voice carrying across the lake as he spoke about partnership, respect, and building something beautiful together. My college roommate served as best man, and Olivia's sister caught the bouquet with a laugh that echoed across the water. No one from the Matthews family was there. They didn't even know it had happened. The professional photographer captured everything, not Lance with his expensive equipment, but a woman who understood that some moments deserved to be preserved perfectly. The reception was lobster rolls and champagne on the dock, dancing to a playlist we'd curated ourselves, speeches that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. "This is what love looks like," Olivia whispered as we swayed to our first dance, the lake reflecting fairy lights like scattered stars. 3 days later, I sent the wedding photos to my parents in an email with the subject line, "Thought you'd want to see how we spent the wedding money." Mom called within minutes, her voice shrill with confusion and hurt. "Ethan, what is this? When did you get married? Why weren't we invited?" "We got married with the money we had left after you stole our original fund," I said calmly. "It was beautiful, intimate, honest, everything a wedding should be. We didn't steal anything. We borrowed money for your father's medical emergency. Mom, I saw Dad golfing the day after his emergency surgery." Lance posted his entire Bali vacation on Instagram. The hospital has no record of Dad ever being admitted. "Would you like me to send you the screenshots?" Silence. Then Dad's voice in the background, "Hang up, Martha." But she didn't hang up. "We can explain everything. Come over for dinner. We'll talk about this like a family." "We are talking like a family, like the family you taught me we are. The one where love is conditional, support flows in one direction, and loyalty is a transaction." That's when I delivered the news that would change everything. "Speaking of transactions, I need to update you on your investment. The AI fraud recovery market experienced some unexpected volatility. Your $15,000 position is now worth approximately $0. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Dad's voice, tight with disbelief. "What do you mean zero? Total loss, market collapse." The risk disclosures were very clear about this possibility. "I'm sorry, but your investment is gone." "That's impossible. You said it was guaranteed." "I said the risk disclosures were clear. I never guaranteed anything. In fact, I specifically warned you about the potential for total loss. You signed documents acknowledging that risk." Mom's voice cracked. "Ethan, that was our emergency fund, our savings. We don't have $15,000 to lose." "I know exactly how much $15,000 means to a family," I said. "I learned that lesson when you stole ours." The next few minutes were chaos. Dad demanding to see documentation, Mom crying about their financial situation, both of them suddenly understanding what it felt like to have their security yanked away by someone they trusted. I let them rage, let them plead, let them experience the same helpless fury I'd felt sitting in my car outside the golf course. "We'll sue you," Dad finally said, his banker's authority crumbling into desperation. "With what money and on what grounds? You signed legitimate investment documents with proper risk disclosures. You made an informed decision as sophisticated investors. Your own words, Dad." "This is revenge," Mom whispered. "This is consequences," I corrected. "For the first time in 30 years, your actions have consequences." The fallout was immediate and devastating. Within 2 weeks, their house was on the market. Dad's golf club membership was canceled. Mom's weekly salon appointments stopped. Lance's girlfriend, who'd been planning their own elaborate wedding funded by his parents, suddenly discovered she needed space to think about their relationship. Lance called me directly, his voice raw with panic. "Ethan, you have to help them. They're talking about selling the house. Mom's been crying for days." "Help them how?" "The same way I helped when you needed bail money, the same way I helped when you needed a car loan, the same way I helped when Dad needed emergency surgery." "That's different. This is serious." "It was always serious, Lance. You just never had to face the consequences before." "They're our parents. They're your parents. I'm just the ATM they raised to fund your lifestyle." The conversation ended with Lance hanging up on me, but not before I heard something in his voice I'd never heard before. Fear. Fear that the golden child might actually have to take care of himself. 2 months later, they downsized to a small apartment across town. Dad had taken a part-time job at a credit union. Mom was tutoring students after school for extra income. Lance was living in their spare bedroom, finally forced to confront the reality that his photography hobby wouldn't pay rent. The family dynamic had been completely shattered, and from the wreckage, something new was beginning to emerge.